Annika, another day, another really negative news report about some kind of safety or child abuse incident in childcare in Australia. I want to know, what can we do as parents to educate ourselves about this and to make life a little safer for everybody?
I completely agree, Kate, because I am so sick of my news feed being kind of filled with all this negative stuff.
And it is really hard to talk about it, but if we don't talk about it, it's not going to get any better. We're all just going to get more scared and we're going to hear more negative stories.
Which is why we're going to talk about it today. And we have the perfect guest to give us expert insight, someone who is working or has worked behind the scenes in the industry, working as an ex-police officer. Let's get her on. Kristi McVee is a former police detective who spent more than a decade on the front line investigating child abuse and interviewing children and families. Today, she's one of Australia's leading child safety educators, and she's here to help us understand what really keeps kids safe in childcare and beyond. Thank you for joining us, Kristi.
You guys are welcome. Thanks for asking me.
Kristi, everyone is wondering, are child safety incidents in childcare happening more, or is it just that we're hearing about them more at the moment?
Yeah, it's the old conundrum, isn't it? Is it actually happening more? Or both are true. It's actually important to say that clearly rather than picking one. Both reports of physical violence and neglect and abuse is happening more. But we also think that because children have better education and people are better educated, that more reports are coming through. So it's both. It's neither or. I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah, a bit of both. And when it comes to childcare incidents specifically, what type of safety incident or abuse is most common in that setting?
Look, if we look at the look at the reports that we're getting through, there's definitely, obviously, we're hearing more about child sexual abuse, which we never really thought of in conjunction with childcare, right? We never used to think that, if I send my kids to childcare, that they could be sexually abused. But just to remind parents and to hopefully make them feel a little bit better, overall incidence of child sexual abuse, it's only around 1.2% of all reported child sexual abuse is in care.
Mm-hmm.
And that's across all institutionalized settings, so schools, outside care or before and after school care, childcare. So really, it's not as big as it seems, but obviously we're seeing more reports of it. So it's a bit scary. However, neglect of physical abuse, violence, that is more so what's common in childcare settings. So what it tells me is that regardless of which type of abuse is happening in childcare, we have potentially neglected the education, the recruitment and the whole sector as a whole for too long. And it's basically, snowballed into the fact that we have this issue with our most vulnerable kids and our babies. And I feel for, my daughter went into childcare, was in long daycare settings, had before and after school care. When you drop them off, you want to be able to trust the people that you leave them with and you want your child to be safe. And so, we've neglected that in that entire industry.
Kristi, when we hear these news reports on things happening and we hear that they have been perhaps happening in some of these services for months, even years in some instances, of course, as parents, we are wondering, how is it left to go so long? Did no one notice? Is it that people don't say anything? Why does it take so long for it to be spoken about?
Yeah, there's multiple reasons for that. There's, the thing is it's like this perfect environment for abuse because pre-verbal children under the age of 2 can't tell anyone, right, unless there's physical signs, and most abuse happens without anyone ever seeing it. That's how they abuse. So, abusers know this and target them deliberately. Research shows that child sex offenders target pre-verbal children in care. We know this because that's where these people are going to work because there's this gap in the industry where we need early childhood educators. They haven't been monitored, supervised, or had the right training, and we're just, desperate for workers. So that left a big gap. But grooming also is a big part in this, because grooming, the person who wants to abuse children will groom everyone. They don't just groom the children, they groom the adults, the staff, the management. Staff are managed so that they get time alone with children, because in order for a lot of these cases to have happened, we've got children who can't speak up about it or, aren't aware of what's happening. Then we've got this person who's meant to be trustworthy with children, alone with children, because they've groomed everyone around them to make it seem like that they can be trusted in alone with children. And then, the children are also groomed and the environment is manipulated and managed. Most of these incidences that have been reported to police and reported in the news, these happened in those times when we had low staffing levels, lunch periods, before and after school periods, where there might be half an hour here where there's one educator with 4 or 5 children at a time. So they're literally waiting for an opportunity. There's 3 things that I believe that any child sexual abuser needs is trust and time alone, and that it creates the opportunity to abuse. So that's what they're doing. They're basically playing the system to enable that to happen.
And Kristi, would you say that high staff turnover with educators, for example, contributes to that too? Because you've got people who maybe aren't familiar, so they're less likely to speak up because they might be there for a week or a day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a big part to it. I mean, if the centre or the place that they're, is not able to keep staff, or there's a high turnover, or they're not used to the rules and regulations or the way that the centre runs, then, how are they to know that this is not okay, or this is not normal, or this is not what? And again, these people that groom the adults and groom the management, etc., and manipulate the environment, they're very, very lovely people. They seem very trustworthy. They make you feel like it's really easy for them to manipulate the people around them. So they wear a mask of this, I'm a trustworthy individual, I can, this is what we do. And if it's your first week, or you're only there for a few days or a few hours, how are you meant to know any different?
Kristi, you mentioned that it's not just children who are groomed for sexual abuse, but it's also adults. So from a parent perspective, and also educators and colleagues who are working with this person, how might they go about grooming those around them, these other adults in their lives? What can parents and educators look for when they're working with someone or meeting with someone and they're trying to work out whether their intentions are good or maybe not so good?
Yeah, so I mean, they're really good at moving boundaries, like moving the lines. So really strong policy and really strong child safety standards and policy is really important, and sticking to them in a centre. So educators know the railway line, they know they've got to stay between the lines, but the person who's grooming everyone is really good at pushing that boundary and keep pushing it. It's a flexible boundary for them. So they will do their best to, it's okay, it's only this once, or like they always have an excuse for why they haven't done something. It's constant, it's continual. They're very good at apologising, moving on. And then with the parents, they're becoming, your child is my favourite child. Everyone wants their kid to be loved and known and respected in their spaces. So, they're really good at, Kristi's such a great kid. I love spending time with her. She's always sunny. Your child, she's going to go somewhere. Like, you've got such a great little one here.
But as a parent, we want to hear, we were just talking about this, but we want to hear that from educators when we pick up our child. There's nothing better than hearing Mia had a fabulous day today with her, with me. We did all these wonderful things, played out in the sand pit. You're like, oh wow, this is great. Like this person gets my kid. They've had a wonderful day together. Alarm bells aren't ringing for me then. I'm feeling great. Like, I'm really happy.
Yeah. But there's also that there's a professionalism around them. Like they won't keep saying things like, when your child's with them, they're respectful of the child. I see it all the time. And I feel so much for educators right now because this massive spotlight is on them and they just want to do their job and they just want the kids to be safe. And they've also been targeted by these people. They're also a victim of the people.
Exactly. They're as confused and as stressed and not knowing who to trust as every parent out there, right?
Yep. And so, anyone who is offering treats to the children, maybe singling out one child over others, not setting boundaries in place with contact and stuff. I always found that any educator or anyone who sort of initiates contact, as in, come here and give me a hug, come and sit on my lap, come in, and they're the ones always drawing children into them versus, I see you're upset. How would you like to be comforted? Do you need something? Would you like a hot chockey, or would you like to come and play? Would you like to help me pack up, or would you like to help me get the next activity ready? Oh, let me know if you need a hug. Giving the choice, if they're verbal, of course, giving the child the option to choose how they want to be comforted, not drawing the child in and saying, come here and give Kristi a hug, come and and sitting them on their lap and holding on to them and not letting them go. And you love Kristi's hugs, don't you?
Yeah.
Literally.
Like feeding them what to say almost.
They groom them, they tell them what to say, they give them all of this language that maybe the child wouldn't even say. They're not setting up those safe boundaries like, oh, it's okay if you say no. You don't need to, for me personally, my daughter is 18 years old. I still say, would you like a hug when she's upset? I don't go, here, hug her without her permission or consent.
And I think this is such an important point you make because who is initiating that kind of contact is so important. Like even with our little ones, is it your little toddler running up to that educator or your educator, like you say, being the one? Come to me.
Come and give me a hug.
Yeah. I had never thought of it that way, but who's doing the initiating is probably a really good clue because I am conscious as well that there are, and I know through having my 2 kids through childcare, some of their educators, I still know their names. If I see them in the supermarket, we're stopping, we're talking for 40 minutes. Those relationships are so special and set our kids up for their early learning and learning journeys until they're adults. And a great relationship is so beneficial. So it's so hard to be like, no, I need to be protective and cautious. And there's always that line, right? But you want to make sure your kid's safe. And I just worry so much sometimes that, it's very hard to tell that you don't want to damage the good because of the bad.
I agree. And look, a safe educator and safe person is someone who draws boundaries. Hey, not, we don't always hug. We get to choose. We remind kids that they've got a choice. We sit there and we remind them that they can say no. It's okay if you say no. It's the same with, it doesn't matter whether you're an educator or a parent. I get the question all the time, and this is a little bit off topic. Oh, when do I stop bathing with my child, or when do I stop my child seeing me nude? And I'm like, it's got to be child-led. You let your child know they get a choice whether they do it or not. The people or the children who didn't have a choice, those were the ones that were more at risk of abuse because no one let them know that they had a choice in the matter. I think it's really important that we lead with, this is your body, this is your bodily autonomy, this is your choice. No one can ever do anything that you don't want them to do. Obviously in some cases with, caring for them, changing nappies, we have to sometimes do things that they don't want to get their nappy changed in that moment, or they don't want to change their clothes in that moment. So we explain it to them and ask them if they want to do it, if they're old enough to start doing it for themselves. Would you like to do this today, or do you need help today? We're always giving them the option to choose for themselves. And then if it's something that's necessary, hey, we have to change our nappy because of this, we have to do it because of that. And, sometimes there's things that we can't avoid, but we're always explaining what's happening to their body.
Some of these, because we have many questions for you about what can parents look for when they go into a childcare service. Maybe they're on a tour, or maybe they're going in to spend some time with their child at a place where they've already been attending for a while. And what should they look for and listen for? So the use of language and how educators speak and interact with the children is so, so important and so telling, right?
Right. Exactly. A transparency is really important to me. I really believe that in the current environment we're in, if an early childhood education centre is being transparent, honest, listening to parents' concerns and nothing, because it's really important that we feel safe, we feel confident in them. So transparency, that we want to see their child protection policies, their photography policies, their intimate care policies. They need to be visible and enforced, not just on paper. We want to know exactly what process is. And so that means when you do your little walkthrough, they can explain it to you, they can show it to you, and you can see it modeled in when you're walking around. We want to make sure that there's clear sight lines, open rooms, good CCTVs being brought in as a necessary thing in quite a few centres. Some people have brought it in early. We want the ratio thing is a big issue because that's how these offenders have managed to abuse, because they've used the ratio against offenders. And then, so how do they manage that? How does this centre manage ratios? When they've got people on lunch, when they've got before and after school, when there's less staff on duty, how do we manage the intimate care areas? Is there an opportunity for one adult to be left alone in a closed room with a child? What are they doing to minimise that risk? And also, I think you brought it up before, but high staff turnover is a red flag for me, because it means that they are, first of all, they'll be low staffing levels consistently. And second of all, it means that there's something not right with leadership and management if there's constant turnover. So that's a big red flag for me in regards to that. And, the other thing that a lot of people don't forget or don't know is you can walk into a centre at any time of day. And one of the things that an actual early childhood educator said to me is go during your lunch break and go and see what's happening in the middle of the day. Go and check out in your lunch break, go visit and see what it's like, whether kids are just, left alone, if there's, no educators around, are they sitting around, in the lunchroom,
if you get
whatever.
ID checked at the door.
Where I can correct, is the doors all working? Can you even get in there? And also, look, working with children's checks are not a safeguard. Like they're there to protect against potential people who have already been caught, but most predators and abusers have not been caught and won't be caught. And this is the thing that we cannot rely on. And I guess the training of staff, is the education centre, investing in staff and investing in their training and giving them the right tools to be the best they can be, because most educators just want to be safe people for kids. They are there for the kids.
So for people out there who are working with children, maybe they're a centre owner or even an educator, it's about communication, isn't it? If you're doing all these changes and implementing new policies and procedures to ensure children's safety, you need to share that with the families, don't you? Because it's not just about the services and the staff. It's equally parents.
Yeah, the community.
Right? In these situations.
Yeah, well, without the children and the families, you don't have a business. So, I think some of these education centres, this management and owners, they forget that without parents, they are without a business.
I don't think they're forgetting at the moment, Kristi. The industry, it's a really challenging time. There aren't as many children enrolled at the moment, and families are scared. We don't know who to trust, and not surprisingly, educators don't really want to work in early childhood education at the moment, because every morning it's a different news report, and when you feel like you're doing a wonderful job and not being supported, why would you want to keep working in that industry when every day you're being questioned? But then some people do just love working with kids, and that's what breaks my heart. And we wanted to ask you also about male educators, because we've heard things in the news where we shouldn't have any males working in early childhood education, and gosh, that's such a sad thing to hear for our little ones. But is that a fair thing to suggest? Would that solve any problems?
Look, I get really annoyed with gendering any of these beliefs, because we still have I get it that predominantly males are the perpetrators of sexual abuse. I get it that it's a large percentage happens by males, but still around 12% of child sexual offences happen by women. And if someone wants to harm children, they are going to find a way to get close to children. That is the facts. And so it's not just happening. I mean, if we don't have males in early childhood, then we don't have males in primary school and high school.
Yeah. You got the ripple effect.
I don't do that. We can. It's not protecting kids by just looking everyone through. And yes, I know it is very much a high percentage of men, but I just want people to start thinking in protection and preventing child sexual abuse in an all-over roundabout way. Don't just look at men or look at certain, because it's every culture, every belief, every religion, every person. It's not everyone, it can be anyone.
I think that's such an important point, because the reality is childcare as an industry, is 95+% women, but these incidents are still happening as well, and they're still going underreported. They're happening from different places. So this is where it goes back to my point before. I think there's a really big difference between education and empowerment versus fear-mongering. And I think this thing of, we are all scared, but that doesn't mean we have to be sitting ducks. And it's so, you've provided so many good points in this chat, because there are things we can do within the industry, but also as parents in a community to speak up, to have these difficult conversations so that it stops happening. And that's something I kind of wanted to put to you, Kristi. As a parent that sits here and doesn't want to just sit here and be afraid, what can we proactively do when we know our kids are in childcare 1, 2, 5 days a week? What conversations can we be having with our services to make sure our kids are safe?
And with our little ones, if they're verbal, I suppose. Love to hear from you.
I guess from the perspective of what we can do is we can sit down with our educators and our centres and just go, look, we're all struggling. Parents are struggling. Their centres are struggling. If the centre really gives a lot about what's going on, they're going to feel the pressure, but they're also hopefully going to be open to a dialogue. I know that I feel way more comfortable if my fears and my insecurities and what I'm is heard. So if I'm being able to sit down with someone and say, look, I'm really scared. I don't know what to do. Can you just reassure me and tell me what you're doing? And they, explain it to you. If your centre is not willing to even have a conversation or get back to you about that, I'd have some real doubts about whether they're a safe
red flag.
Yeah.
Huge red flag. Huge.
So, and, with your educators, how do they treat children when you're walking in the door? Are they, are they talking with them about things, explaining things to them? Do they get down on their level? Do they use their name? Are they being respectful? Do they, respect your child's autonomy and bodily autonomy? Everyone has their moments and everyone has their days, but on an average day, on an average moment, are they talking with respect? Are they treating your child with respect? Is the centre safe? Are they investing in their people? Are they investing in the centre? Do your children get new toys and new educational tools, or is it old and nothing's been changed since you started there? If the centre is really doing what's right for the children, they're investing in their people and they're investing in their centres.
And Kristi, it's fine for families to ask these kinds of questions, right? Like when they go in for a tour, or if they listen to they listen to our chat today and they go, oh my God, I don't know what my service is doing to support their educators or do professional development and things. They need to go in and say, hey guys, what's happening here? What are you doing to support kids and your educators, right? Ask the questions. Just because a service might not be showing you or sending you an email update every week, which ideally they should, but if they're not, ask, right?
Personally, and I know there's a lot of hats and a lot of things that people have to wear, but if you're a centre and you're, that's your primary business, is to make people feel safe and respected and to know that their kids are in a safe space. So letting them know what's happening in your centre. You know, I think most centres send out a newsletter email and say, hey, this is what we did this week, or this is what we're doing next week. So letting people know when your staff are getting certain training, when they're having certain things, you know, how it went, what is going on, is just part of the process of keeping people informed. Informed parents are empowered parents. And informed educators are empowered educators. So what can we inform them on and make them feel safer? You know, I can't say that that's the 100% guarantee that nothing will happen.
Yeah.
But it's
It
definitely going to make
but we
people
can
feel
be
better.
informed and we can know who to speak to when we feel like something maybe isn't quite right. That comes to one of our other questions, is for a parent out there, if they have concerns, and it might be in early education setting, it could be in just like daily life where you see something or you hear something or it just doesn't feel right. What are the first steps for that parent? And do we need to collect, like, you know, enough evidence to feel like we're not imagining things or being dramatic? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the other thing, like with regards to that, yeah, you do, like, it's good to have things in writing. It does help overall when you report something. You can report information. So you can also, I wouldn't expect we'll look into it as a resolution. If you complain to the centre and they say we'll look into it, no, I want written confirmation that what you're doing. I want to know what steps you're taking, what investigation they should have a formal investigation process, and we should be aware of it.
It's the child safe standards in the NQS that services must communicate this with parents, and I believe it's yearly. I think I served on a parent committee for a community kindergarten for a while, so my memory's a bit foggy. But yeah, we as the parent committee actually had to go through the child safe standards and ensure that we were happy that the service was meeting them. And then we had to communicate it with the rest of the parent community and also with the educators if we've updated any policies and things. So it's back to this point of communication. Like, we need to be talking about these things every day in every way, really. Child safety should just really be part of everyone's day.
Exactly. I mean, we used to complain about occupational health and safety, and people used to say, oh, it's such a pain in the butt, and like, why do we have to do all this? And now it's 20 plus years on, and it's normal for us to follow guidelines, follow policy, report it, all of this stuff. So we're in like that kind of space right now. If you don't get any joy or you don't feel comfortable with what's happening at the early childhood centres level, you can report it up to the Department of Education and federally to ASEQA. If there's been, and here's something I would really highly recommend parents, if there has been a criminal offence, your child has been abused either physically, sexually, you need to take it to police yourself. Don't wait for them, because they're mandatory reporters, but I have seen way too many education centres try and protect their reputation first and not report it straight away. And therefore, evidence like CCTV footage can be deleted and can be, it can be lost. It can be written over if it's too long. I had a case years ago now, but they told the parent this child had been sexually abused at the early childhood centre. They told the parent that they had they were reporting it, mandatory reporting it to police. The parent was waiting for like the police to contact them. 3 weeks went by. She just didn't know better. She kept asking, and they said, yep. And, in the end, she contacted police herself. The actual report was never submitted.
Oh,
I mean,
that's scary.
Mandatory reporting laws say that they have to, but do you know what? I've never seen anyone charged with any breach of mandatory reporting laws. So they're not very firm. So I would say go to your centre first, report it to them. If you're not happy with the resolution, you don't receive anything in writing, I'd put it in writing. So have a conversation if you feel confident to do so, then email them, because now you've got a paper trail.
Yep.
Go to the Department of Education or their, if it's not a criminal offence or if it's just something you're concerned by, their behaviour policy or whatever, then report it to the regulatory authority, which is usually Department of Education, and ASEQA is also federally. And then if it is a criminal offence, report it to police yourself, so that you know that something is happening straight away, and hopefully evidence will not be removed or deleted or whatever. I can't say that every case with police will be investigated fully, or, you know, that they will find enough evidence to charge someone. But, you know, it's on the books now. It's
it's in there.
pushing the red button, basically saying we've got to look at this.
Just got one quick question that stems from this is, I'm a parent, I've seen something, I have concern, or my little one said something to me. I raise it with the service director and they say, okay, thank you, I've put it in writing, they're going to do something with it. How long is reasonable for me to wait? Like you mentioned that parent who she didn't know any better, she kept asking, they said, yeah, like that was 3 weeks or more. Is it 24 hours, 48 hours? Like,
I would say 24 hours, you should have a response saying, this is what we've done, this is what our next steps are, this is what's happening. If you haven't got something in 24 hours, I would take it further, because there is no and I believe that the laws state that they have to do something in 24 hours anyway. So you should have some sort of reply within 24 hours telling you what's happening.
And if it does turn out to be something not as serious, not I don't know how to ask it properly, but like, you know, I know a lot of people probably do doubt themselves sometimes, and educators, not just as parents. And we're like I said before, you know, did I imagine I was like tired? Did I actually see what I saw?
Yeah.
I thought, I don't know. What would you say to those people who maybe would hesitate or say, oh, just wait and see if it happens again, or if I hear something from another parent or whatever? Do you wait it out a little and get some more evidence?
Trust your gut, trust your instincts. Your body knows before your brain catches up. And okay, some of us are a little bit more hypervigilant and we're a little bit more aware, so we're a little bit more on alert. And some people are completely clueless and oblivious, right? But if you notice something, if you don't call it out and say something, you're actually putting children at risk. So it's not your job to investigate or charge or judge people, but it is your job to say, hey, that was inappropriate, that's not okay. What it will do, though, if it is a person who's acting inappropriately and has inappropriate intentions against children, what it will do is put a target on your back. So just so you know, when you do call this out, predators and offenders, when they feel that someone's is onto them kind of thing, they will then start doing a smear campaign against that person, so that they will go to like management, they'll go to leadership and basically smear your name. They'll smear you to everyone around you. I don't know why Kristi doesn't like me. I don't think she's got something against me. She's got something in on me. The reason for this is they're going to gaslight and make you feel like you're crazy. Of course, you got it wrong. You misinterpreted it, but also they're going to smear your name. The reason for this is they're protecting themselves. They're basically going to target you and they're going to try and make it really hard for you. You have to do it first. You have to go to management and say, I observed this behavior. It is against policy. I'm leaving it with you. I actually had a leader contact me about the person eventually was found to be abusing children, and they were called out about behaviour. The educator went to the leader. The leader went to the person doing the inappropriate behaviour. And when they were found out, or when they had that conversation, they're like, "Oh, I can't believe they didn't come to me. Who is it? Like, why didn't they tell me? I really like." They apologised and they were really apologetic. But what they actually were more worried about was, why did that person go to them, the leader, and not to them themselves? And they were like more worried about that than actually being called out on the behavior. That's because they couldn't intercept the person before they did it. And then now this spotlight was on them.
How interesting, though, that if that happens, it's probably a great sign that you absolutely are on the right track. Like if they go with the gaslighting and the smear campaign, they have something to hide.
They're worried because like their grooming hasn't quite worked properly. Is that sort of the idea behind it?
There's always people who see through it. And one of the things is that, that is a great sign that you're on the right track and that this person, but however, most people aren't aware that this is what happens. Most people, because these offenders and these predators have done a really good job of grooming everyone before they even get found out or you start seeing this behavior, they're already on the offensive to make sure that no one actually believes anyone else when they do come forward. As long as you've got boundaries in place, you're not pushing boundaries, you're not making it, you're not singling out one child over another, you're not, it's a really fine line, because nurture is what predators use to groom kids. They use nurture to make them feel safe. They use nurture and love and care, but they're also, pushing it a bit more. There's secrets between them. Our little secret, treats, one-on-one time. Come and help me in the office, so it shouldn't be, one-off might be just a one-off, but it's how they react. And I do talk about this in that when someone is unintentionally doing that, they will stop the behavior altogether and never do it again. They will be apologetic. They might get upset that they were called out on it, but they'll come around and apologize. Someone who is intentionally trying to harm kids, they will pretend like they didn't know they were doing something wrong and then start doing the behavior again.
Yeah, that's scary. And I think all throughout all the questions you've answered, and thank you for all the information you've given us, Kristi, I think the key piece that I'm hearing from you that I absolutely agree with is being equipped and educated, both in the childcare industry, but as parents too, is what makes the biggest difference. And I know, Kristi, you mentioned this, that you do training with educators. You do training with parents too, that's correct?
Yeah, so obviously my social media and my platforms are all based around parents, but I do teach and talk about, warning signs, red flags, but also the biggest thing that I found that protected kids when they can, when from birth, but when they are verbal, is to talk to them about body safety, and that's their bodily autonomy, consent, their private parts are private, all of the body safety rules. It's why I created the Conversations with Kids cards, so that parents could have those conversations at home without feeling like they were doing the wrong thing or saying the wrong thing, because most parents are really scared to make a mistake or scare their kids. And I can tell you now, my daughter's been having these conversations since 2. There is no way you can stuff this up. You just have to do it.
So the more we all talk about and know and have the language to use to talk about it with each other parents, with our colleagues, other educators, or the service director, the safer our little ones are going to be, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for your time today, Kristi. For any of our listeners who want to hear more from Kristi, you can follow her on socials. We will link up her website in our show notes as well, because she has some fantastic resources available. I'm already following and very religiously all the updates that you put out. Thank you so much, Kristi, for your time. I feel like we have learnt so much, and for sharing your insight and your incredible career and experience with our listeners.
You're welcome.
Thanks.